My name is Matthew Carroll, and I'm here to discuss nutrition with an emphasis on weight loss. One of the things during this pandemic is this COVID-19, where we're gaining weight, we're eating unhealthy, we're highly stressed. And one of the things we were going to do in this lecture is kind of talk about nutrition and see how we can actually reduce some of the stress and provide the opportunity to lose that 15 and actually get more of a weight loss oriented position. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually talk about what people are eating. If you look at this, it says where Americans eat from the 1890s to the 2009. And you can kind of see where there's an increase in fat food, and you're starting to see eating out more than eating at home. Look at the 2009 little position. It says that people are eating 30 to 50% at fast food. So we're eating largely based processed foods. This is actually quite a detriment for the body because it's harder for the body to be providing the good nutrients while it's being provided fairly unhealthy foods. If you kind of look at what the sugar consumption, it has skyrocketed. Added sugar is probably the single worst ingredient in modern diet. You can kind of see when it happens is that the sugar consumption rises. So numerous studies have shown that actually eating excess amounts of sugar can be very bad for the body. You can see any harmful effects on the metabolism, leading to insulin resistance, belly fat gains, high triglycerides, and dense LDL and cholesterol. That's just to name a few. So what becomes easily available, we're starting to see a large processed amount of foods being consumed. So we're seeing added sugars being consumed, which what this graph is showing you is that you're starting to see a rise in obesity. And that's one of the things we want to try and avoid, is because we want to provide the opportunity for you to be as healthy as possible. With Exos, we provide a pyramid called position, pattern, and power. These are helpful with movement, but can be also used in a position for nutrition. So for nutrition, the easiest one to fix would be the foundational aspect, which would be sleep and hydration. And then the next one would be pattern, would be optimizing meal timing. And the end for power would be specificity, improving nutrient quantities, and supplements. So the first one we're going to talk about is water. Water is the most important thing in the human body. Your body is 65% water. What's nice about water is the fact that it is involved in almost all of the chemical reactions that are happening in our body. It's also a meal suppressant, so it actually will help with weight loss. The other benefits of water is boost of energy, healthy skin, cures aches and pains, helps with digestion, kidney health. And I love this picture. It has everything you'd ever want to know about what water does in the body in one simple picture. What it does with hunger is actually an interesting thing. So with hunger, there's two aspects to it. There's a psychological and a physiological component. A physiological component is that if I have not eaten in 3 days, my body will be craving food. I will be hungry for food. From a psychological point of view is where we start to see the major issues. From a psychological point of view, what ends up happening is we're tired, we're sleepy, we're angry, any emotion we start to fall back into. I'm hungry because I haven't slept, I'm moody, there's many excuses. But the thing about it is that if we're still eating that 3 to 5 meals, we're still providing the body that amount of energy. That psychological hunger actually becomes a component that will actually work against us. What it does is says, I need food. I'm going to need the chocolate, the chips, the salt, the cravings, whatever craving you have. So you start to feel like, hey, since I'm tired, I'm going to have a bunch of M&Ms just to try and build up my energy level. Another way of attacking that problem is actually drinking water. When you drink water when you're hungry, your body says, okay, maybe I'm not really that tired. Maybe I just need some energy. And again, you can kind of see from this picture, water boosts your energy levels. So we can, looking from that component alone, 250 calories of M&Ms versus 0 calories of water. We want to be an energy deficient component for weight loss. So if we can remove any of the bad calories that we can, we'll put our body in a better position. So the question is how much water should you be consuming? From a normal daily life, you should be half of your body weight of ounces of water per day. Food also has water as well, so you can include that. So this is just from a normal daily point of view. This does not even include the amount of water you should drink if you're exercising. The second component of fundamental nutrition is people are actually sleeping less. Sleep is often overlooked when it comes to weight gain and obesity. As the years have gone on, and from 1955 to 2005, you start to see this decrease in amount of sleep that we get. We're no longer getting the 7 to 8 hours of sleep that is recommended. With poor sleep, we start to see a negative effect on various hormones that are related to weight gain. What this is saying is that when we fall asleep, our body kind of goes into this position where I need to restore. I need to fix all of the issues that I have. If I've exercised, I've caused micro tears in the muscle, and this is the opportunity where I can provide the hormones, the testosterone, to fix it, and the growth hormone. So what ends up happening is that if we gain less of this, our body is repairing less, so we get back into that state where we're starting to get the reduce the hormones, because again, your body needs calories to create muscle. So if we start to see a decrease in the amount of sleep, we're starting to see a decrease in the growth hormone, the testosterone, and we start to see the effects of we're going to be hungry more and our cravings will be higher. As it turns out, short sleep duration, one of the strongest individual risk factors for obesity, is linked to 89% risk in children and 55% increase in risk in adults. Just to think about this, if you just increase the amount of water intake and you increase the amount of sleep, you can actually see a decrease in hunger and decrease in cravings, and you maybe even see weight loss. So a few things that I would recommend was, if you have water bottles, fill them up. Have several. So all you need to do, since we are working at home, you have a fridge, all you need to do is you can just swap water bottles and just constantly fill it up. It's another way of tracking the water, because if you have a protein shake bottle, they normally come with ounces on them. And as for sleep, going to bed an hour before without any TV, reading a book, trying to make sure that we're in a dark, cold, actually shows to beneficial to gaining more sleep and more effective sleep. So now looking at the food aspect of it, is that we're starting to see food is becoming a lot cheaper. Just because food is getting a lot cheaper doesn't mean that it's the right foods, because real food isn't cheap. Processed food is. Going back to that fast food, going to Dunkin' Donuts and getting that massive giant donut is not the same thing as getting in eggs. So we want to provide the body unprocessed foods, because it's a lot easier for the body to break down real food versus processed food. So this gives you that challenge of looking through and what we're eating. Next time you go to the grocery store, walk around the aisles, because if you walk around the aisles, that's where the real food is. You get your fruits, your vegetables, your meats, your eggs, your dairy. Those are the foods that we would recommend for people, because they're less processed and they provide the body the best for processing through. The other issue that we're running across is that sugary drinks and fruit drinks are on the rise. The brain is a major organ and is in charge of regulating our energy system, making sure that we don't starve and we don't accumulate excess fat. It turns out that the brain doesn't register liquid calories in the same way as does solid calories. So if you can consume a certain amount of calories from a sugary drink, then your brain doesn't automatically have you eat fewer calories or something else instead. So that's thinking about like Diet Cokes. What ends up happening is that we see a rise in people drinking sugary drinks, and what ends up happening is the body processes the food and it doesn't process the sugar. It tricks the body. And looking at the Diet Coke, people think, well, I've had a Diet Coke that's 0 calories. And so what your brain goes, well, there's calories that I'm not consuming. I know that it's there, but I just can't see it. So what ends up happening is we actually stay a little bit more hungry, and we actually eat those calories. So one of the weird things about Diet Cokes. But we also see a decrease in milk, we see a decrease in water, and we start to see the fruity drinks, the sodas on a rise. Studies have shown that a single daily serving of sugar-sweetened beverage is linked to 60.1% risk of diabetes in children. And that's a scary thought to begin with, is that we're starting to see a rise in child obesity. So what we want to do is actually, again, focus on the things that you get the bang for your buck. Milk is a fantastic thing for you. It has calcium, vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin C. Provide water, which is, again, another free, easy, 0 caloric. It's fantastic for you. So we want to actually start to push more of the things that are good for you. And then looking from a caloric intake, we are going to look at the obesity. Obesity is in the rise. So again, some may complain that it's sugar, carbs, fat, or something else, but what we normally see is that we want to be in a calorically deficient position if we want to make sure that we lose weight. What I love about this little graph, it kind of shows the progression of the rise on caloric intake. In 2010, you can kind of see where it's at. It's about 2,700 calories. So you may be asking, why is that so important? Well, the issue you run across is that the human body is about 2,200 calories to 2,600 calories that you have per day. That's the range that we want to stay around. If you want to gain weight, you want to be above it. If you want to lose weight, you want to be slightly below that. And the thing about it is that it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So it's every little step. 250 calories of pop with 250 calories of candy, they all add up. And so what we end up seeing is that we rise in high caloric foods. We're starting to see a rise in high caloric meals. So we go past that. So we're intaking more than we're consuming. So we start to see the fact that we get weight gain. Then what is the role of food? That's the most important thing. Why do we consume the food that we consume? Well, for fuel, it would be considered carbohydrates. To build, it would be proteins like chicken, turkey. To prevent injuries and sorenesses and prevent sicknesses, we want to provide vegetables. That's the main goal for vegetables. And oil is to protect. Very important, but we start to see a rise in one versus the other. We start to see a large amount of carbohydratic meals versus not a lot of veggies. So we have a large amount of fuel with very little veggies. And so we want to build that balance. The whole entire thing about nutrition is about balance. Calories in versus calories out, the proper amount of fuel to protein, to vegetables, to healthy fats. So then we have to look at how do we apply nutrition in the real world. Because it's all nice and dandy just to have, say, you know what, you should be eating this and you should be eating that. Well, before you go out to a restaurant, make a plan. Look at the menu beforehand. Think of what you're going to eat. That actually will help reduce the amount of calorie intake. Shop while you're full. So the thing about it is that when we're hungry, we lose self-control and we get the bonbons, we get the chips, what we want to do is actually be prepared. We want to make sure that we're not hungry, because if we're not hungry, we won't look at what we want now. We can look into what we want for the our next few dinners. And then search for new foods and look at recipes. That's one of the nice things about it. Look at the food that you're consuming and say, am I getting enough fruits? Am I getting enough vegetables? If I'm not, there are millions of recipes out there, healthy recipes that we can provide the body the option for adding new and different fruits and vegetables. And then while you're at the grocery store, is look at the vegetables and fruits. Find the colors, because all the colors mean different things. We'll talk about a little bit later on. Choose the healthy fats. Find the nuts and the oils. They'll help add flavor and texture and benefit to your body. Aim for at least one new nut. Try things out. That's what's kind of nice about the grocery store, is that they have many foods out there. Stick with lean protein. Lean meats, lean low-fat dairy are great sources of protein for your muscle. You can also find protein in nuts, seeds, and dairy. And the last thing is try and find high-rich fiber foods. Unfortunately, white bread is not considered a high-fiber food because it's heavily processed. What fiber does is it actually helps fill you up longer. So seek minimum processed grains to add into your meals. Venture into new aisles. Look at different grains, but stick to a plan. That's the most important thing. Come into the store with a plan, leave with that plan. So then the question is, what is right for me? How much should I be consuming? How much fuel? How much carbohydrates? How much meat? How much fat should I be adding when I'm cooking? And these are kind of a necessary thing. So for fuel, think about fist size. So that would be carbohydrates. For protein, think about the size of your hand. And then for fats, the size of your thumb. So then the question comes, how much should I be consuming? How much protein? How much fat? How much carbohydrate? So what I've done is added a little bit of a table guide for you, just to kind of understand how much you should be consuming. So for protein, if you're in a preparatory stage where you don't want to gain any weight, is roughly 1.2 to 1.7 grams per kilogram. If you want to convert that, it's 2.2 pounds per kilogram. So then you can try and convert that. But from a daily point of view, I would recommend 1 gram of protein for 1 pound of body weight. So if you're 150 pounds, it's 150 grams of protein. That is a lot of protein. And the thing about it is that we want that amount of protein. What's nice about protein is not only does it help with repairing the muscle, but it also has a good fiber content, high fiber content, so it helps fill you up. So one of the tricks to do this is actually going and getting yourself protein shakes. Protein shakes are low in calories and provide the amino acids that you would need and provide a good amount of protein. So I would spend some time and actually look at this and try and get to understand a little bit more and trying to figure out your ranges. Because what's nice about this is that if I have a journal and I say I need 150 grams of protein, when I create my meals, I can say, hey, do I have enough protein to meet the normal daily requirement for me? The other thing about writing out your foods is that you can kind of see where you're lacking, where you're strong at, where you need to pull back, or where you need to emphasize. You can write down saying, you know what, I had 300 calories of M&Ms. And what's nice about this is that you can look back and say, you know what, maybe I don't need those M&Ms. Maybe if I take out the M&Ms, those 300 calories, you'll start to see a more beneficial rise to it. So then we're going to look at what the fruits and vegetables actually do. So fruits and vegetables are a great source of vitamins and minerals. They're good for vitamin A, C, E, magnesium, zinc, phosphorus, and folic acid. They're fantastic on fibers. They're low calorie, low fat. And again, using that example again, 200 calories of grapes versus 200 calories of M&Ms. the fruits provide more bang for the buck and provide a better thing for you. They help prevent against cancer and other diseases, going back to that prevention. And they can also help reduce high blood pressure, help reduce cancers, reduce risks of diabetes, stroke, heart disease. So you can kind of see how beneficial these fruits and vegetables are. It's one of the reasons why we say taste the rainbow. Eat as much rainbow into your diet as possible. What I've done here is actually broken it down for you so you can actually look at what the foods do, what the red fruits and vegetables do, what the orange, the yellow, the green, the purple, the white, and start adding that into your protein, into your meals. Start to say, you know what, I need to work on my heart and my circular system. Let's start adding some beets, cherries, cranberries, strawberries, onions. All these things help provide the body and help you live a longer life. And that's what we want. We want to make sure that at the end of the day that you are healthy. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to
What's going on? Alan Cosgrove here, IGTV. I know I said I would do these on Friday, but hey, weekend got away from me. What I want to talk to you guys today is about fat loss. Surprisingly, I'm getting a lot of questions about this, like during quarantine, what's a good way for fat loss, and what am I doing with my clients when they come back and they've gained the COVID-15, right? Like that's the new thing, it's like the freshman 15. Well, what I want to talk about, I want to remind you of this little phrase I use a lot. Methods are many, principles are few. Methods can change, principles never do, right? And that's based on the idea, like, I don't really like to discuss methods too much. I don't have a lot of interest in that. But what I do have is principles that I focus on when I'm working with fat loss clients, right, or talking about it at all. And I'm going to break down these three. I'm going to tell you the three of them, and I'm going to break down what that means when I explain it. Number one, caloric deficit. Number two, positive nitrogen balance. And number three, something I like to call anabolic signaling. So, number one, caloric deficit. If you have fat on your body, it is stored energy. It was stored because you consumed too much energy, right? So in order for your body to access those stores, you have to give it an energy deficit. You quite simply have to eat less than you burn. There's a couple of ways you can do that: through nutritionally, like nutritional restriction, or number two, through increased exercise, or number three, combination of both, right? 250 calories of exercise added each day, cut your calories 250, and you've got a nice 500 calorie deficit. There's a whole bunch of ways of diets, right? But when we control diet for calories and protein, doesn't seem to be a lot of difference in terms of fat loss. So it's finding something that you can work with. But that brings me to number two, positive nitrogen balance. Do not decrease your protein intake when you're trying to lose fat, right? Don't cut your calories from there. And in fact, for a lot of beginners, you know what? For a lot of beginners and intermediates, and maybe some advanced, actually increasing your protein might be key, right? Because a lot of us don't eat enough protein. I'll be honest myself, like, if I'm not using shakes, it's hard to hit those numbers. We like to have a gram per pound of body weight as an easy number. So 200-pound guys getting 200 grams, that can be hard, right? So it's just a target, like we want to try and hit that. So for some people, if you're not doing enough, you should increase that slightly. So number one, we've got to somehow create this deficit so that your body taps into the stores. Number two, we want to maintain protein intake, which creates this positive nitrogen balance, which has the body maintain the muscle and lose the fat. Which brings me to number three, my first exercise part, anabolic signaling. You have to do an activity that tells your body to maintain muscle mass. So it's going to be some form of resistance training. After that, there's a bunch of stuff you can do. You can do body part splits, you can do powerlifting, you can do circuit training. You can, whatever you're doing resistance training wise, sends the signal to the body that I need this muscle. This is a threat to my system, and I'm going to maintain this muscle in order to keep it. Like my body needs it. I have this shortage of energy, but I have this need for muscle, and I have the protein to keep it. So I've created this situation where any deficit gets taken up from fat stores. Hopefully that makes sense. Now at Results Fitness, we do a technique called metabolic resistance training, right, which involves a power component I believe that, and I think the science shows it, is that if we do high-speed power activities, it sends a nervous system signal to the body to maintain the muscle. So we have to do some jumps or throws or kettlebell swing or something like that, right? So we keep that. And then the rest of the workout is resistance training designed to also create a metabolic effect. So we use slightly higher reps, slightly reduced rest periods, and we usually use non-competing pairings or circuits. So you may do a lunge, push-up, row, something like that as a circuit. So the rest between sets of lunges is long, so you can go heavy. The rest on the body is short, so we get this metabolic effect. But we keep the exercises tight, but we're resting the legs while we do the other two exercises. So the lunge we recover from and can still go heavy. That's what we call metabolic resistance training. It's a power component plus that sequencing. So, fat loss. Alan Cosgrove and the Results Fitness Principles of Fat Loss. Number 1, create a caloric deficit. Number 2, you have to have a positive nitrogen balance. And number 3, anabolic signaling, metabolic resistance training. Hope that helps you guys. Cheers.
And looking from that, going back into that video, what he talks about is that thermal activity. So looking at it from a point of view of this is what the body would look like. So saying that from a resting metabolic rate, a thermal effect of a meal, and the thermal effect of activity. Using that all as the example of how we burn energy in 24 hours. From a resting metabolic rate, that's keeping up our daily livings, breathing, walking, moving. That's not even include exercise. So we spend 60 to 75% of energy expenditure just staying alive. And then you throw on 10% of that thermic effect of a meal. When we consume food, we don't immediately get all the nutrients. We actually have to break down that food, and it takes energy to get the energy. So it takes roughly about 10% of energy of the expenditure that we get to actually take that food, that meat, the protein, the chicken, the vegetables, and break it down into the components that the body can use. And then the last part about it is the 15 to 30% of actual activity, of actually that exercise, when we're working, when we're moving, when we're exercising. So if you want to think about it, nutrition plays a large role. Again, think about it, 60 to 85%, that's not including working out. So if we can get our diet correct and use the exercise to work on the activity, we will provide our body the best opportunity for weight loss and the goals that you really want to do. So, again, going back into this, the non-exercise activity thermogenesis, that's when we're not eating, sleeping, or doing exercise. That's walking, working, typing, performing, yard work, really all of those things. Counts for about 70% of what we do. So we want to make sure that we're optimizing nutrition so that it works for us. Come back, the major thing out of this is calories in versus calories out. Are you eating more calories than you're burning? So if your calories in, you're gaining weight. If you're bringing calories out, you're losing weight. Again, that involves the thermal effect, resting metabolic rates, thermal effect of food, non-exercise thermogenesis. So if we want to think, most important thing, calories in versus calories out. And then metabolic compensation. If you eat less and you exercise more, you'll create an exercise deficient. What we're doing is we're creating that imbalance. If you do this, we want to be a slow process. Again, marathon, not a sprint. But these extremes where I'm not going to eat food for several days, I'm going to starve myself. What ends up happening is the body goes into that alarm state. It says, hey, I don't know where my next food source is going to be, so I need to protect the body, the storage. So what it does, it'll say, you know what, body fat, I'm going to keep you. I don't know when the next time I'm going to get energy, so I'm not going to burn my big energy sources. I'm not going to go through my fat. I'm going to go after that muscle tissue, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the muscle, because I don't need the muscle as much as I need the fat stores. So you actually see breakdown in muscle tissue, and we also see a less demand on energies because of that, because there's not much energy in the muscle compared to energy in fat storage. There's this weird idea that of calories that you consume always provide fat gain, and that actually is not true. Research tells us that if you eat less and exercise more approach to a diet leads to about 20 to 50% loss of lean tissue, water, glycogen, and muscle. Metabolic rate accounts for 2/3 of calories burned at rest, and more than half of basal metabolic rate is determined by your muscle mass. So the question you're asking is, what does that mean? So what happens is that muscle actually burns more calories than fat does. It's one of the reasons why as athletes you see these guys eat so much, because their muscle is constantly starving and constantly wants food. So if you go out and you exercise and build that muscle mass, then you're actually going to see a decrease in fat storages because, hey, the body needs to feed the muscle. So really, the focus on here is with nutrition, you should focus as well on what you eat. And then weight loss should be the dominant form of activity in fat loss programs. It's kind of a little cool study where it kind of looks at runners versus lifters. We want to, again, focus on making sure we're providing more calories out than in. The other thing that I'm going to talk later on in different lectures about is calories burned during an exercise session are relatively small compared to the amount burned through the 23 hours of the rest of the day. So when we exercise, let's use the treadmill as an example. I go out, burn 300 calories. When I get off, I don't immediately just burn those 300 calories in there. I burn those 300 calories, and then my body is still constantly burning. Fat oxidation actually occurs between training sessions, not during. Exercise sessions should primarily be geared towards building muscle and boosting your metabolism, not the thing of burning fat. Upon cessation of the exercise session, training session raises metabolic rate for long periods of time. We want to get back to homeostasis. We want the chemicals that we've provided to actually come back to that normal rate. And it takes energy, again, to build energy. So what is the most important thing here? So this is probably the most important slide if you just want a quick summary. We want to correct our nutrition. We have to create a calorie deficient. We want to create protein, get enough protein in our bodies, and eat the right fats. Not eating the fried chickens. We want the healthy fats. Think of avocado. We want to be burning calories, promote muscle mass, and we want to elevate our metabolism. If we elevate our metabolism, again, we're burning calories, we're providing the body an opportunity to become calorically deficient. All right. I want to thank you all for attending this lecture. This is a very interesting kind of concept. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. You can also contact your trainers. They will also have fantastic knowledge on this too. I want to, again, really appreciate you all for attending this. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.